In today's video, we're going to make a fabric bowl cozy again, and for some reason it does not go as planned. First off, for this project, you're going to need some batting. Again, I'm using some of the batting that I got from a thrift store, and it is 10 inches by 10 inches square. Now, this is, and of course I didn't know this, but this is the start of where my issues came into play, but we're just going to continue on. We've also got two pieces of scrap fabric that are also 10 by 10, and we're going to go ahead and layer those two together. Now, you can't really tell at this point, but the batting that I'm using is actually pretty thick, and this is something that I've done a bowl cozy before, and I've used the cotton natural whatever that cotton batting is, and it's not nearly as thick of a loft as this, but we're going to keep pushing through. You're going to layer those together, and you're going to do a stitch in a cross shape. On your cross shape, you can eyeball it, or if you want to mark it, there's a couple of ways you can do that. There is this tool that's called a Hera marker. The way that it works is it doesn't put an actual mark like an ink mark on your fabric, it just does a crease. So what you do is it creases the fabric and gives you an edge to where you can sew. So on this piece, I use the Hera marker to mark it. Normally I just eyeball things. There's also chalk. I got this pack of chalk a long time ago, and then I got this one that has a replaceable powder. I tried to mark it on my hand, clearly did not want to work, but I used the little piece of chalk and it worked pretty well. So now we mark our other piece, and like I said, we're just doing a simple cross. Here's a close-up of the crease with the Hera marker. It does work really well, actually. And you just want to sew right along that crease with your sewing machine. And you can get fancy with your stitching if you wanted to do something more exotic or something that's a little fancier than just an X. Feel free, but for our purposes, we're just going to keep it simple. And now that you've got your X on your fabric, what we're going to do is we're going to turn them over to where the batting is facing up. And you're going to go 2 inches on your folded side and 1 inch on the side, and you're going to make a diagonal kind of mark. Now, like I said, I've got these chalks in a pack, so you can also use one of these pens. Now, I had a little bit of an issue marking on the batting. You can use chalk like this. I probably could have eyeballed it, but I wanted to try to show how you're supposed to do it. Here I am trying the pen again, just trying to get something to show up. I tried using it and it did not work out very well, so I went with the chalk. It seemed to do a little bit better, but it wasn't great. Leave me a comment if you've got a better idea on how to mark on this batting. Anywho, you're going to do it on both sides and you're going to sew on that line. Once you get it sewn on that side, you're going to do the exact same thing on the other folded side. You're going to do that on both sides, and you're going to get shapes that look like this. Now, once you've got both sides sewn, that little extra piece right there that's kind of sticking out, you're going to go ahead and you're going to cut that. Make sure that you do not cut into the stitches that you just made. Otherwise, you're not going to have a fun time. You're just going to clip all of those little corners. See, it's starting to look like something, isn't it? And go ahead and clip it on that side as well. And now you're going to have these two pieces that look like this. Now you're going to put one inside out and one right side out. You're going to put them together like I have in the video, and this is really where all of the issues start happening for me. Because of the batting that I use, and it was so thick, in the little cross sections right there in the corners where I'm clipping them, it was so thick. And I've made these things before, but again, the batting was a different brand, a different style, a different loft, and it was just not fun. On this first one, I decided that I was going to leave a spot to turn it inside out that was only about 3 inches wide. That is not enough space. Just trust me that you need to leave more space open. But, you know, we're going to roll with it because that's what we're doing. I clip my corners so that there's not that much bulk. Turns out, because of that batting, just really gave me an issue. I am not having a good time turning this thing inside out in a 3-inch hole. It's just not fun. I fiddled with this thing and I had so many issues. I just had to go ahead and seam rip more of that space open. But I did eventually get it turned, and I got my pointy tool to get the corners sharp. And this is where I'm looking at it, and I'm already seeing that this is not turning out how I want to. Not at all. Like, I'm looking at it and I'm feeling it already and knowing that it is entirely too thick. But I'm gonna keep going, and we're just gonna keep battling through. I just wanted to show you these mistakes and just let you know that it's okay. Now right here in the corner, you know, I'm taking another look at it, and I'm thinking about doing a top stitch, because that's basically the last step to this process, is we're going to top stitch all the way around. But before we do that, we just want to make sure those corners are sharp. So when you do your top stitch all the way around, you want to make sure to close that gap where you turned it inside out. Now, of course, with it being smaller, it wasn't much to sew, but trying to get it together and get it closed was such a hassle. I eventually did, and I got it top stitched, and it's hard to tell in this dot here, but I did not get it closed in those thick corners. But there's the finished product. It's still functional, but it's not optimal. And here it is with two different size bowls. Here's a taller bowl, and it still works out. It still will protect your hands. And here's another bowl that has a bigger opening. But yeah, functional, but not optimal. Now, this is the bowl cozy that I did in the first part of the video. And it's just so thick, and breaking needles is not a good thing. So I decided that I was going to try a different method. As you can see, this batting is quite a bit thinner than the other. And I've seen some other patterns for the bowl cozies where you start out with a different shape. You do the cuts on the diagonal that I showed earlier in the video. You do those cuts before you start sewing. So as you can see, it's 2 inches on the fold and 1 inch, and I cut that on all 4 of the folds. Once I got my fabric squared away and squared up with the batting, same way that we did it before, we've got 2 pieces of batting, 2 pieces of fabric. We're going to do the same sewing as before. You can cut off the fabric there. You're not going to have the batting because you clearly already cut it. And now this is also a step that you could do when you actually cut the batting. Now that I'm going back through, I didn't even think about that. But you could cut it when you do the batting. And again, I'm trying to nest my seams in those corners. And I tried a different method of leaving a space open to turn everything inside out. And for whatever reason, it did not work out again how I thought that it would. I was just not having a good time with this project. As easy as it is, I've made way more complicated things than this, but I thought, oh, I'll try this spot right here, and sewed all the way around. I was like, oh, I'll give myself more space to turn everything inside out. Clipping my corners, and there I go. I'm like, oh yeah, this is great. I'm just turning it. I'm gonna get my tool, get the corners all nice and crisp. And when I went to close up the gap that I turned inside out, lo and behold, what happened? What do you think happened? Yeah, just take a wild guess. You see those side stitches just coming all the way apart. That side and on the other side. So I was like, well, I guess we'll just roll with it. And I went ahead and did a top stitch. And there's the two failed cozies for your viewing pleasure. Hey, hello. Here's Editing Festina. I just wanted to pop in and just say that I hope that you've learned a couple of things from this video, a couple of things to look out for. I will do another video where I successfully do the again, I've done this before so many times, but me trying to skimp on materials, I should have known better. Just take your time, don't break any needles, and it'll all be okay. But until next time, keep sewing, and I'll see you later.